My hands were shaking as I stared at my phone. 3 missed calls from Gerald, my lawyer. Then a text that made my blood run cold. "Tom, call me now. Don't go to your daughter's house. I mean it." I was literally putting on my coat, about to drive to Lindsay's place in Springbank for Sunday dinner. My daughter had been so insistent this week. "Dad, you never come over anymore. The kids miss you. I'm making your favorite pot roast." How could I say no to that? But Gerald's text changed everything. I sat back down on my leather couch, the one Margaret and I picked out 32 years ago when we first bought this house in Mount Royal. My late wife would know what to do. She always did. But she'd been gone 4 years now, and I'd been navigating this world alone ever since. I dialed Gerald's number with trembling fingers. "Tom?" His voice was tight, professional, but I could hear the concern underneath. "Where are you right now? Are you alone?" "I'm at home, Gerald. What's going on? You're scaring me." "Good. Stay there. Lock your doors. I'm coming over. We need to talk face to face. And you need to see some documents I received this morning." 20 minutes later, Gerald sat across from me at my dining table, spreading papers between us like they were evidence at a crime scene, which I suppose they were. "Tom, 3 days ago, your daughter Lindsay and her husband Derek filed a petition with the Court of Queen's Bench." He paused, looking at me with those serious lawyer eyes. "They're applying to have you declared mentally incompetent. They want to become your legal guardians and take control of all your assets." The words hit me like a physical blow. I actually felt dizzy. That's insane. I'm 67 years old, not 97. I volunteer at the food bank. I manage my own investments. I just renewed my driver's license last month without any issues. My voice was rising, panic creeping in. Why would they do this? Gerald slid another document toward me. "Because of this, your house is now worth approximately $2.4 million. Your investment portfolio is valued at $1.8 million. Your pension and savings bring your total estate to just over $5 million. I knew I was comfortable. Margaret and I had worked hard, saved carefully, invested wisely. I'd spent 35 years as a petroleum engineer before retiring, but hearing it laid out like that, so clinical, so targeted. Lindsay knows about the house value," I said slowly. "We talked about the Calgary real estate market last Christmas. She joked that I was sitting on a gold mine." It wasn't a joke, Tom. Gerald opened his laptop and turned it toward me. "Look at this. Your daughter and Derek are in serious financial trouble. They bought that 5,000-square-foot house in Springbank Hills 3 years ago. $650,000 mortgage. Then Derek convinced her to invest in his business partner's cryptocurrency venture. They lost $400,000. Your grandson Josh's private school costs $38,000 a year. Their property taxes alone are $22,000 annually." I stared at the screen, my mind reeling. "How do you know all this?" "Because their financial situation is part of their petition. They're arguing that they need to protect your assets from your declining mental state before you make irresponsible decisions with your money. And Tom," he looked at me with something like pity, "they've been building a case against you for at least 6 months. He showed me the evidence. Photos of me at Safeway, apparently looking confused in the cereal aisle. I was just trying to find the brand Margaret used to buy. A statement from their family doctor, Dr. Patel, noting that I'd seemed disoriented during a checkup. I'd had a bad cold that day and forgot what medication I was already taking. A recorded conversation where I allegedly couldn't remember my own phone number. I'd been giving them my old number from before I switched to a new provider. Every normal moment of an aging person's life twisted into evidence of incompetence. "But this is fraud," I said, my voice hollow. "This is elder abuse." "Yes, it is. And unfortunately, Tom, it's becoming increasingly common. Adult children going after their parents' estates before they die. The courts are seeing more and more of these cases." Gerald closed his laptop. "The hearing is scheduled for 2 weeks from now. They moved fast, probably hoping to catch you off guard. What happens if they win? They become your legal guardians. They control your bank accounts, your investments, your house. They can sell your property, move you into assisted living, make all your medical decisions. You'd essentially lose your autonomy completely. And Tom, he leaned forward. Based on their financial situation, I'd estimate they'd have your house on the market within 3 months. The house where Margaret and I raised Lindsay, where we hosted Christmas dinners and birthday parties, where she planted the garden together, where she took her last breath in our bedroom upstairs, holding my hand. "They can't do this," I whispered. "Lindsay wouldn't. She's my daughter." "I'm sorry, Tom, but the evidence suggests otherwise. They've been planning this carefully. They waited after you had that minor car accident last year. They documented every time you forgot a name or missed an appointment. They've been building a narrative." I remember that accident. I was coming home from the grocery store when a teenager ran a red light and T-boned me. The police report clearly stated I wasn't at fault. But now I understood why Lindsay had been so insistent on coming to all my doctor's appointments after that, why she'd started taking notes on her phone whenever we talked. She was gathering ammunition. What do I do? I felt lost, betrayed, angry, and terrified all at once. Gerald straightened up, his expression shifting from sympathetic to strategic. "We fight back, and we fight smart. But Tom, I need to know, are you prepared for what this might mean? This isn't just a legal battle. This is going to tear your family apart." I thought about Lindsay as a little girl, how she'd climb into my lap and ask me to read her bedtime stories, how she'd cried at Margaret's funeral, holding on to me like I was her anchor, how she told me she loved me just last week. But then I thought about what she was trying to do now, the betrayal, the calculated deception, the willingness to destroy her own father's dignity and independence for money. "Tell me what we need to do." Gerald smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a lawyer who had just been given permission to go to war. "First, we're going to document everything. Starting now, you're going to keep a detailed journal. What you do every day, who you talk to, every coherent decision you make. I want timestamps, details, evidence that you're of sound mind." "Okay." "Second, we're going to get you evaluated by an independent psychiatrist, not your family doctor who they've already influenced, but a specialist in geriatric mental health, someone who can testify that you're cognitively sound." "Fine." "Third, and this is crucial, Tom, you can't let them know that you know. You need to act normal. If they realize we're on to them, they might accelerate their plans or destroy evidence." That dinner invitation suddenly made horrible sense. They wanted me there tonight for a reason, didn't they? "I suspect they planned to have you sign something, maybe a power of attorney document slipped in among other papers. Just some routine financial planning, Dad. Or they might have staged something, recorded you having a confused episode to use as additional evidence." The manipulation was breathtaking. How could she do this to me? The words came out broken, and I realized I was crying. 67 years old and my own child had reduced me to tears? Gerald put a hand on my shoulder. "I've been practicing law for 30 years, Tom. I've seen this too many times. Money changes people. Or maybe it reveals who they really were all along." Over the next week, I followed Gerald's instructions to the letter. I kept detailed journals noting everything from my morning crossword puzzle times to my volunteer shifts at the Calgary Food Bank. I met with Dr. Sarah Chen, a geriatric psychiatrist who put me through a battery of cognitive tests. I scored well above average for my age group. "Mr. Morrison," Dr. Chen said after our third session, "I can state with complete professional confidence that you show no signs of cognitive decline, dementia, or mental incompetence. Your memory is excellent, your reasoning is sharp, and your judgment is sound. In fact, you're sharper than many people half your age." But the hardest part was pretending everything was normal with Lindsay. She called me on Wednesday.
"Dad, I'm so sorry about Sunday. Derek's mother had a fall and we had to rush over. Can we reschedule for this weekend?" "Of course, sweetheart," I said, the endearment tasting like ash in my mouth. "Is she okay?" "Oh, she's fine. You know how dramatic she can be." Lindsay laughed, that familiar sound I'd loved my whole life. "Actually, Dad, while I have you, Derek and I wanted to talk to you about setting up a trust, for estate planning, just to make sure everything's organized in case, Well, we're not getting any younger. She was still trying. Even knowing I had a lawyer, even with the court date approaching, she was still trying to manipulate me into giving her legal control. That sounds like a good idea, I said carefully. Let me think about it. Don't think too long, Dad. These things are time-sensitive. You never know what might happen. Was that a threat? I couldn't even tell anymore. That night, my grandson Josh called me. He was 15, a good kid, or at least I thought he was. Grandpa Tom, can I come over? I need to talk to you alone. Of course, Josh. Is everything okay? I need to see you, please. He arrived 20 minutes later on his bicycle, his face flushed from the ride. He looked scared. Grandpa, I need to show you something, but you have to promise not to tell Mom and Dad that I told you. My heart sank. Josh, what is it? He pulled out his phone with shaking hands. I heard them talking last week. Mom and Dad, they didn't know I was home. I recorded it. I'm sorry. I know it's wrong, but after I heard what they were saying, I thought you should know. He hit play, and my daughter's voice filled my kitchen. I'm telling you, Derek, the hearing is in 2 weeks. Gerald Morrison might be his lawyer, but we have Dr. Patel's statement. We have the photos. We have everything documented. Derek's voice responded, What if your dad fights it? With what? We've been systematic. Every instance of forgetfulness, every missed appointment, every time he seemed confused. The judge will see a pattern of cognitive decline. And even if he tries to fight, it'll cost him hundreds of thousands in legal fees. By the time it's over, there won't be much estate left anyway. And if we win, when we win, the house goes on the market immediately. Even in this market, we should clear $1.8 million after the mortgage is paid off. That solves our cryptocurrency losses and gets us back to zero. Then we liquidate his investment portfolio, pay off our mortgage, and set up the trust for Josh's education. What about your dad? Where will he go? A pause. Then Lindsay's voice, colder than I'd ever heard it. There's a lovely assisted living facility in Airdrie, much cheaper than Mount Royal. He'll be fine. He won't even know the difference soon enough. Josh was crying now, silently, tears streaming down his face. Grandpa, I'm so sorry. I didn't know what to do. I love you, and they're talking about you like you're not even a person anymore. I pulled my grandson into a hug. This brave kid who just betrayed his own parents to protect his grandfather. You did the right thing, Josh. You did exactly the right thing. Are they really going to take your house? The house where you and Grandma lived? Not if I can help it, buddy. Not if I can help it. I called Gerald immediately. When he heard the recording, he was silent for a long moment. Tom, this changes everything. This is direct evidence of fraud and elder abuse. With this recording, we don't just defend against their petition, we go on the offense. What do you mean? I mean, we're filing a counterclaim. Fraud, attempted financial exploitation of a vulnerable person, conspiracy to commit theft, and, Tom, we're going to make sure every judge in the Queen's bench knows exactly what your daughter tried to do. The hearing arrived faster than I wanted it to. I sat in the courtroom with Josh beside me, his hand in mine. Across the aisle, Lindsay and Derek sat with their lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit. Lindsay wouldn't meet my eyes. Justice Maria Rodriguez presided. She was in her 50s, with steel-gray hair and an expression that suggested she'd seen it all. Lindsay's lawyer went first, presenting their case. The photos, Dr. Patel's notes, the documentation of my supposed decline. He painted a picture of a tragic situation, a loving daughter trying to protect her failing father from himself. Your Honor, Mr. Morrison is clearly in the early stages of cognitive decline. His daughter, Ms. Morrison Fletcher, is merely trying to ensure that her father's substantial estate is protected and managed responsibly before he makes decisions that could jeopardize his own financial security. Then it was Gerald's turn. Your Honor, I'd like to present Dr. Sarah Chen's psychiatric evaluation completed just 1 week ago. Dr. Chen found no evidence whatsoever of cognitive decline. In fact, Mr. Morrison tested above average for his age group in all areas of mental competence. He submitted the report. The judge read it carefully. I'd also like to present evidence that Ms. Morrison Fletcher and her husband have been systematically documenting normal aging behaviors and presenting them as evidence of incompetence. The confusion at Safeway. Mr. Morrison was looking for a specific brand of cereal. The disorientation at Dr. Patel's office. He had influenza and a fever of 101. The forgotten phone number. He had recently changed providers and was still adjusting to the new number. Gerald methodically dismantled every piece of their evidence. But, Your Honor, most importantly, I have evidence of the true motive behind this petition. He played Josh's recording. In the silent courtroom, Lindsay and Derek's voices echoed, cold and calculating, discussing my estate like I was already dead. House goes on the market immediately. Liquidate his investment portfolio. He won't even know the difference soon enough. The judge's expression hardened with each word. When the recording ended, Gerald continued, Your Honor, this isn't a loving daughter protecting her father. This is a premeditated attempt at financial exploitation. Ms. Morrison Fletcher and her husband are in severe financial distress due to bad investments. They stand to gain over $5 million by having Mr. Morrison declared incompetent. They've manipulated medical records, staged photographs, and built a false narrative, all to steal their own father's life savings. Lindsay's lawyer stood quickly. Your Honor, this recording was obtained without my client's knowledge or consent. It's inadmissible. In a criminal trial, perhaps, Justice Rodriguez cut him off. But this is a civil proceeding regarding guardianship, and I'm very interested in understanding the motivations behind this petition. She turned to Lindsay. Ms. Morrison Fletcher, would you like to explain to me why you're discussing selling your father's house and liquidating his assets while he's sitting in this courtroom, clearly of sound mind? Lindsay opened her mouth, but no words came out. Your Honor, that recording was taken out of context. We were just discussing hypothetical estate planning. Hypothetical estate planning that involves putting your father in a lovely assisted living facility in Airdrie while you pocket nearly $2 million from selling his home? The judge's voice was ice. Miss Morrison Fletcher, I've been on this bench for 18 years. I know financial elder abuse when I see it. Justice Rodriguez looked at the papers in front of her for a long moment. Then she looked directly at Lindsay and Derek. I'm dismissing this petition with prejudice, which means it cannot be refiled. Furthermore, I'm issuing a restraining order. Miss Morrison and Mr. Fletcher are prohibited from contacting Mr. Morrison or coming within 100 meters of his residence for a minimum of 2 years. I'm also referring this case to the Alberta Crown Prosecution Service for potential criminal charges of fraud and elder abuse. She turned to me, her expression softening slightly. Mr. Morrison, I'm deeply sorry for what you've experienced. No parent should have to endure what your daughter has put you through. I'm ordering that all legal fees associated with your defense be paid by the petitioners. Additionally, I'm recommending that you consider updating your estate plan to protect yourself from any future attempts at manipulation. Lindsay was crying now, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of someone who just lost everything.
Dad, please, she called out as the court adjourned. Dad, you have to understand. I turned to look at her one last time. My daughter, the little girl I'd taught to ride a bike, who I'd walked down the aisle at her wedding, who I'd thought I'd known. I understand perfectly, Lindsay. I understand that you were willing to destroy me for money. I understand that you saw your own father not as a person, but as an estate to be liquidated. I understand that the mother you claim to have loved so much would be ashamed of what you've become. Josh squeezed my hand. My grandson, who'd had the courage to do what was right, even when it meant betraying his own parents.
Grandpa, can we go home now? Yes, Josh. Let's go home. As we walked out of the courthouse, Gerald walked beside me. Tom, that was incredibly difficult. How are you feeling? Honestly, I don't know. I looked down at Josh, but I know that not all family is blood, and not all blood is family. I lost a daughter today, but I gained the knowledge that I raised at least one person with integrity. That evening, sitting in my house in Mount Royal, the house Margaret and I built our life in, I called my lawyer one more time. Gerald, I need to update my will. The house, the investments, everything. I want to set up a trust for Josh's education and future. Lindsay gets nothing, not $1. She made her choice. Are you sure, Tom? That's permanent. I'm very sure. And Gerald, I want it explicitly stated why. I want the will to detail exactly what she tried to do, so that if she ever tries to contest it, a judge will know the full story. Consider it done. Josh moved in with me a week later. His parents had kicked him out when they realized he'd recorded them. 15 years old, and they'd chosen money over their own son. But I had a big house and a bigger heart, and Josh needed someone who'd put him first. We established a new routine: breakfast together before school, homework at the dining table, weekend trips to the mountains. Josh helped me in the garden, planting vegetables where Margaret used to grow her roses. Grandpa, he asked one Saturday morning as we were pulling weeds, do you ever forgive her? Mom, I mean. I sat back on my heels, considering the question carefully. Forgiveness isn't about them, Josh. It's about not letting their actions poison what's left of your life. Do I forgive what your mother tried to do? No. Will I ever have a relationship with her again? Probably not. But I won't spend my remaining years consumed by bitterness. I've got too much living left to do, and now I've got you to help me do it. 6 months later, Josh and I stood in the garden together, looking at the newly installed plaque, Margaret's name, her dates, and a quote we'd chosen together. Family is not always blood. It's the people who stand by you when everyone else walks away. Do you think Grandma would have liked this? Josh asked. I think your grandmother would have loved it, and she would have been so proud of you. My phone rang. It was Gerald. Tom, I thought you should know. The Crown decided to file charges. Lindsay and Derek pled guilty to attempted fraud. They received suspended sentences and 2 years probation, but it's on their record now. And it means it's really over. They can't come back from this. Your estate is secure, your autonomy is protected, and you can live the rest of your life in peace. I looked at Josh, who was carefully watering the vegetables we'd planted together. My grandson, who'd saved me, who I got to save in return. Thank you, Gerald, for everything. That night, as Josh did his homework and I read beside him, I realized something important. Lindsay had tried to take everything from me: my home, my money, my dignity, my independence. But what she'd actually done was show me what really mattered. Not the house worth $2.4 million, though I was grateful to keep it. Not the investment portfolio or the bank accounts. What mattered was sitting across from me, chewing his pencil as he worked through algebra problems. Family wasn't about blood or obligation or inheritance. It was about the people who showed up when everything fell apart. It was about a 15-year-old kid who'd risked everything to do the right thing. It was about second chances and new beginnings. Margaret used to say that people show you who they really are when there's something to lose. Lindsay showed me she was willing to sacrifice her father for financial security. But Josh showed me that courage and integrity could still exist in the youngest generation, even when it cost him everything. I'm 67 years old now, and I've learned more in the past 6 months than I did in the previous 67 years. I've learned that trust is earned, not given. I've learned that the people who claim to love you the most can sometimes be the ones who hurt you the deepest. I've learned that real love isn't about what you say, it's about what you do when no one's watching. Most importantly,
I've learned that it's never too late to stand up for yourself, that vulnerability isn't weakness, that asking for help is courage, that fighting back against those who would take advantage of you isn't vindictive, it's self-preservation. To anyone out there who might be facing something similar, let me tell you this. If someone in your family is trying to declare you incompetent, to take control of your life, to steal what you've worked for, fight back. Get a lawyer. Document everything. Trust your instincts. And remember that you have value beyond your bank account, worth beyond your assets. You're not crazy. You're not confused. You're not paranoid. If someone is systematically trying to undermine your competence, it's because they want something from you, not for you. And if you're the adult child of an aging parent reading this, remember your inheritance is not yours until it's yours. Your parents don't owe you their house, their savings, or their assets. They earned it. They decide what happens to it. And if you tried to take it through manipulation or legal trickery, you might win the money, but you'll lose something far more valuable. You'll lose yourself. Lindsay got a year and a half of planning, countless hours of manipulation, and probably hundreds of thousands in potential inheritance. What did it cost her? Her father, her son, her reputation, and her self-respect. Was it worth it? You'd have to ask her. But I suspect in her quiet moments, she knows the answer. As for me, I've got a grandson to raise, vegetables to grow, and a lot of life left to live. The house in Mount Royal isn't just an asset worth millions anymore. It's home. It's where Josh is learning to be a man of integrity. It's where memories of Margaret still linger in every corner. It's where justice was served and family was redefined. And that's worth more than all the money in the world.